Hey, hello,
Hey guys.
everybody. Thank you
Hello.
Hello.
for this beginning of a much more regular mess we're in. We have made a decision that I think we're going to go for Wednesdays at 5. Is that right? Or did we?
Well, we said we'd either go for Sundays or Wednesdays,
That's what it is. We will go
depending
every week.
on how it works out.
Yeah, every week we will go for Wednesday to do a show on Wednesday, and if we can't, we'll do one on Sunday. Okay, so
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but details to be ironed out later. So it's been a very interesting week. My favorite site now is Keir Starmer. When anyone asks him about women, it's like he just heard of them. It's like you just heard of them. Who are these people? Women, women. It's not ringing any bells,
You think you figured out by now, like, if you're being pestered that much to answer the question, and I mean pestered in the best possible way, because you should answer it. I don't mean that in any negative connotations. I just can't think of a better word because I just woke up and I'm bad with words. But I mean, if you're being constantly asked to answer the question, you think he'd figure out by now that he needs to stop dodging the question? But
look into this. Open an article. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's like literally like Sunday.
Honestly,
regular.
Any politician that has come into it so unprepared is almost, it almost forfeits the vote simply for that, for the fact that he has just blundered around. Like, why can't he have a consistent message? Like his message basically is to say, oh, well, I have done everything in the past. I'm thinking now of that heroine, Jane, who interrogated him. She wasn't having any shit from him. No. Yes, but if my track record, I don't care. I don't care about what you have done. What are you doing now? What are you going to do? What are you going to? Well, if you look at what I've done, I don't care about what you've done. She was brilliant. She was absolutely brilliant. And I hope loads and loads of people listen to that, because it made it really quite apparent that he wasn't prepared to answer the question. He really wasn't.
Yeah.
And why not?
Yeah, that's not the 80s. That kind of political dodge the question by answering your own question in your mind game. You can't play that in the year 2024. We know how to work around that now. Where it's just like, get over it, Keir Starmer. It's not the 80s. You can't just sort of answer the question you don't want to answer with a question you do. And you can't just stick to it. Like, oh my God, you know what he's doing? He's Stanley-ing. He's refusing to answer the Stanley question.
Yeah, he is. He totally is. I mean,
maybe it's time for the Stanley question to make a resurgence.
People are asking. I mean, it's being asked, isn't it? It's an obvious question to ask, and people are asking it.
Yeah.
At this time, what it is interesting, people are really going straight for it and saying, what about this? It's less now. Oh, can a woman have a penis? Which doesn't really lead anywhere. This is a specific practical question, isn't it? What are you going to do about women's spaces? It matters. Are you going to allow men in or not? Because honestly, this isn't a small thing. It's a big fucking deal. And a lot of people's votes actually hinge on this. And he knows it, which is why he's not prepared to say. But that's not going to make people vote for him. It's going to make people not trust him.
Yeah, and I think another thing about him is that Keir is one of the, like, if he didn't come so late in the line, he would be the prototype of that kind of middle management politician that we've had in power for, God, 25 years, something like that, And these guys, they're very serious, and they think seriously about serious things like taxes and so on, But this wasn't an issue until a few years ago. But they haven't changed their mode of leader. What we need now is we do need a leader who's, rough around the edges, fucking, but and I'm not talking about any leader in particular. I'm talking about people who can respond to an emergency. This is an emergency. Gay kids are being mutilated and sterilized, and Keir Starmer hasn't even caught up with the debate.
I think that's true. I thought at first that he was just obfuscating. But I think you're right. I genuinely think that he's a little bit clueless. That, you know, I think as your article, the one that you wrote in Spike, Graham, which was really good, by the way.
Thank you.
I think you might be right in that his aides or his the interns have actually kept him away from the issue. They've just fed him a line, and he's not really considered all of the ramification or all of the other side, and he is getting caught out.
Graham, you're muted.
I know, sorry. Absolutely. He always, there was a great tweet today. Someone said sorry, I'm distracted because people are talking about the sound. I'm sorry about the sound. I'll try not to shout. Maybe that'll help. But it's the same as it always is, you know. Where was I? What was I talking about? I've lost my thread.
Sama being kept away from really understanding.
There was a tweet today that someone said, the face of a man who's realized you can't square the circle, you know? And it is that same face he has whenever he's being asked about this. Again, it's like he's never heard of women before. It's like he's never heard of why women need safe spaces. It's like he's never heard why women need fair sports. And here's another thing. How dare he call the debate toxic, when one of the reasons it's so toxic is because men like him will grow up and do their jobs. Yeah. They are letting their kids and their idiot friends dictate to them what to do about this issue. It's
another meme, isn't it? This toxic debate thing. It's just another meme that they just say without even really thinking about it, whether it's actually true. Is it more toxic than other debates? Yes, in a way, is probably not, you know, as toxic as Brexit. You know, lots of things are toxic because people vehemently disagree. This is what happens. But you know, it's just a meme to shut people up. Oh, toxic debate. Oh, that's why, you know, this is why we're not talking about it. But you know what's really interesting? And I mean, I do think that this is excellent. The Wales Women's Rights Network, I don't know if you've seen it. They were in Cardiff yesterday, and they went prepared. They had big boards with very specific questions and little counters where people could put them. Should boys be in girls' school toilets and changing rooms? And you've got a picture of the board, and there is one counter in the yes, and all the other counters are in no.
I saw that. Yeah.
You know, and it's the same for, is it okay for men to compete in women's sports? No one in the yes, everyone's in the no. Is it okay? And then somebody else with the same question, one yes, everything else is no. Same with hospital wards. And if you read the thread, people were saying that women were coming up to them. People are coming up to them saying, I'm so glad you're asking this. You know, this issue needs to be talked about, sort of fist bumps and hugs saying, thank you for asking. We need more of this. Like, the people on the street now do know that this is happening. You know, the information has finally got through. They know it's happening, and they think it's wrong, and they do want it spoken about. They want clarity. They actually want it to be fixed. This is a big deal, I think. That you know, just normal people on the street, none of them were agreeing. Not one of them. Well, one.
yeah, absolutely. But like the other thing, there was something I was going to say about that. I think it was, I think one thing that you see recently is that the trans activists are getting worse. You know, they're getting more violent. They're getting panicky. They're trying to spread so many lies they can't keep up with themselves. And I think it's because we are, you know, winning, to use a word that may not apply to whatever the stupid debate that we've been forced to have is. And I think that's just because the awareness is growing. You know, it's absolutely growing. And I think that one of the scandals to come out of this will be the way the media has looked the other way throughout all of it. They have
stoked it.
Sorry?
And they've stoked it. They've stoked it terribly. Actually, I read articles all the time that have premises like, polls are showing that support for gay marriage and gay families is higher than ever. And yet, LGBTQ hate crimes have never been higher than ever in history. And the LGBTQ is basically on the verge of catastrophe. We have to do something. Hate is so bad against, and it's like, obviously, the first point was the L, the G, and the B, and the second point had 2 extra letters in there. I think we know what the problem is here. And the media is just absolutely adamantly refusing to address this issue. There's a sort of template model that says gay rights was one of these issues that liberal, progressive, decent people had figured out, and that there were a lot of people who just were taking a really hard time figuring out how to come to terms with it. And that's not the case with trans. And you've got all these media figures and political figures who see this as one of those simple issues where there's so much debate over it because people can't figure it out the way, it took people a long time to get over their anxieties about homosexuality. So all these people are assuming that this is just the same thing. It's just simple, and it's fucking not. It's not the same thing at all. All these people have convinced themselves that all the anxiety and all the yelling and screaming and all the toxicity about this debate is just people who aren't as intellectually superior as themselves. Who need to be, who need to just settle down and get used to it. And it's like, no, media people, that's not right. You're just flattering yourselves. This emperor has no clothes. And all the people who are sort of arbiters of reality were supposed to be upholding facts and truth and who are supposed to be our thought leaders have completely been suckered into this, and it's just terrible.
Absolutely. And when you say thought leaders, it's come all the way down from academia, both in the US and the UK, and it's come down from American academia first of all. This is like, I often compare it to there's these games you can get that are kind of like management games, computer games, and about bringing up a society, and there's different victory conditions. I think it's Civilization is most well known, but you can get victories in different ways. You can get a military victory, but there's also cultural victory, and basically what happens with the cultural victory is another country just takes on your culture. That's what's happening. That's what America has done with the trans issue. You know what I mean? They have just spread it like pollen, across the world.
That's a really interesting way of putting it. I mean, that's what the attempt is a cultural takeover, isn't it? And this is why there's such a lot of just lies saying, everyone except, you see it all the time. TRA is saying, like, most people, most lesbians are very happy. Everyone supports it. It's just a few of you. It's just a few of you. It's that attempt to make people believe that the takeover has already happened and they have to kind of go along with it. Otherwise, they're behind the times, wrong side of history, blah, 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 etc., etc. I mean, it was the same as no debate. It's an attempt to win by pretense. It's all sort of smoke and mirrors and lies. You see what happens on the street when you ask normal people under sort of reasonable circumstances, what do you believe? People are like, no, I don't believe this. I don't believe this, because it's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense that the boys should go into the toilet with girls. Like, we know this. We've done this for like the last century. We know that we separate them for the reason. Douglas Adams.
Douglas Adams is a great phrase for it. He says, we cannot move at this speed. It's so stupid, this debate. We cannot move at this speed. But you see, the thing is, the middle management type that Keir represents used to be able to move at a very steady speed. But he just can't deal with it. You know what I mean? He just can't deal with the acceleration he's going to have to take in understanding the issue and understanding why women are so very angry at him. And here's the thing. Posey was followed recently by a cop car. Though they didn't follow her. They just parked across the road from her and surveilled her. She was crying on screen because she was so upset by it.
Were they outside the house?
No, she was trying to get into hustings. She couldn't get into hustings. And I think afterwards, she saw the car across the road. Yeah, look out for it, you know. And Posey is, you know, there's a lot of politics in this, and Posey rubs some people up the wrong way, but that really scared me when I saw her crying, you know, because like if nothing else, she's one of the toughest women in this fight, you know, and I really am terrified that the conversation is going to go even slower with Keir Starmer in charge, and he is going to make people like me, you know, even more toxic, even more, you know, untouchables. So he's a very frightening person to be coming into a job that requires, that I think over the next 8 years to 20 years is going to have all sorts of new problems that haven't been thought about before, because the internet has accelerated everything to a crazy degree. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like there's no end in this. Like that's gonna work out well. This is just a mess. That's like Helen, you were saying. We know how the trans debate ends. It ends with the trans activists losing by definition. That wasn't the case with the gay debate. People realized that there wasn't any harm in homosexuality, and they did integrate nicely into society, or it's working on it. Trans is not. That's not happening with trans. We're not going to settle into a world where autogynephiles are just going to be treated like females ever. It's never going to happen. So the longer Keir Starmer delays, the slower he is. It's just more prolonging this mess. That's just get it in your heads. This debate is already dead and done and dusted. You're just not cluing in yet. This is just a giant fucking waste of everyone's time. I can also sympathize with people who are sick of this debate, who are like, this is all just a trivial sideshow. Because in a sense, it should be that, because we already know what happens at the end. What happens at the end is they take their wigs off and they fuck off back to their porn, you know?
You know, you're right. That is such a good point, because there will be a massive waste of time. I mean, I think, first of all, Graham, I think you're right. Like, if Starmer gets in, which is likely, he is going to drag his feet. He's not going to come in decisively and say, right, this is what we're going to do. He's not. It's gonna just drag out again, you know, more and more.
Yeah.
And if they go, like, if it goes badly and they do make the GRA easier and they do allow men in women's spaces, at some point in the future, they will have to roll it back. They will have to roll it back. But in the meantime, we will have wasted a huge amount of time. Girls will stop doing sports. Girls will be traumatized. They will be attacked in changing rooms, and then people will say, oh yeah, that was a really stupid idea, wasn't it? I mean, we didn't have men in women's spaces for a reason, especially men who are so fucking desperate to get in. Those are the last men we should be allowing in. People are insane with this. Really, it's really stupid, and it's dangerous, and it's a waste of everyone's time. But you're right, Daddy, it isn't going to just change and then everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, what was the fuss about? It's all fine. Because it's not going to be all fine, because we understand male violence and sexual entitlement. That's been around forever. And it's not suddenly going to vanish. No. It's not.
And it's just human nature. Humans are dimorphic. We know what male and female is. You know, I always want to ask these people, like these sort of bros, the beardy bros, who are like, what's the problem? You know, and it's like, well, imagine a world where where there are no longer any females. There's only trans women, you know? Every single person you ever date or fuck or marry is a trans woman, henceforth. You're going to like that? You're going to get used to that? Is that something that doesn't bother you? No difference between women and trans women. So if you have to live in a world where you only ever get to have sex with a trans woman ever again until the day that you die, you cool with that? No, they're not cool with it. They don't want to live in they know the difference between women and trans women. They just think it'll be someone else. Fucking them and marrying them and having kids with them. It's not my problem. Fuck that shit. But the real danger in all of this, to get back to your point, Helen, is that it's completely eroded our sense of trust. You know, democracy is built on trust of knowledge, and nobody trusts the truth anymore. You know, even in the comments just now, somebody said something about how, like, this is playing into Zelensky's plot to commit genocide and instill pedophilia among his people. And it's like, sorry, dude. I'm glad you're a fan of the show, but you've lost the plot in terms of reality. You know, there isn't a secret conspiracy to Zelensky to make pedophiles take over Ukraine. That's just the kind of thing that piggybacks on this issue. When no one can tell what's true and what's not, everybody just sort of can't figure anything out anymore, you know?
You know, this is destabilized. It's destabilized institutions and laws and politics. And it absolutely, you know, it's sort of destroying. It's destroying functioning social fabric. Like it's
but and also no one can do their jobs. It's turning every job upside down, right? You have the police have just told Speak Up for Women, or Let Women Speak, that they can't protect them in Bristol. You know, it's like, why can't you protect them in Bristol? These are women trying to speak. Why can't you protect them? You know, that's outrageous. And if Starmer comes in and makes that worse, and if he ever goes near self-ID or something, I mean, that's what really gets me angry about this issue. The difference between them and us is we don't need to see a raped and traumatized woman to know that these are bad ideas. We don't need to see a maimed and sterilized kid to know that it's a bad idea to give them those procedures. We don't need to see all this, but they do. They actually have to see evidence of their stupidity in the form of a human life, you know? So if Keir Starmer brings all this in, he's going to get a sugar high from all the love that will be bestowed on him by people who don't have a fucking clue about the issue. And then someone's going to be killed, you know? It's that simple, you know? Anyway, sorry. Hey, that reminds me. Can I just say one thing? I have what I think is a massive story breaking tonight at 6 p.m. And I also think it's worth watching GB News tonight, Andrew Doyle's program. So I just want to say that. Keep your eye on my Twitter and my Substack at 6 p.m. Anyway, what else happened this week?
David Tennant. Fucking David Tennant, right? What a boy. I mean, they just, honestly, he embodies basically the whole problem, doesn't he? He's really, it's embodied the whole thing. It's him sort of pretending like I mean, this I think, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, he's transed his kid and so we can't go back. But I actually think it's worse than that. He's got a non-binary kid. So his kid, like, you know, he's an actor, right? You know, they're all actors. And so his kid obviously also wants to get in on the game, has said, you know, I'm non-binary, which makes his parents think, oh, this is fucking brilliant. You know, we're going to get loads of attention now. And this is awesome. But he's had to do nothing. You know, Tennant is cheering on other people's kids getting puberty blockers, other people's kids going down a path of irreversible, you know, where they will end up inorgasmic with no sexual function. His kid is not going to do that because his kid is non-binary. So this is Tennant sort of cheering on the destruction of other people's families and other people's kids and women's spaces, simply for a whole, as you were saying, a massive sugar high, just this attention. And the more attention he's getting, the worse he was behaving. You know, first of all, it's, I don't want Kenny Badenoch to exist anymore. I mean, fucking hell. Yeah. You know, and shut up. And then what did he call us? He said a bunch of whinging fuckers.
To be fair, the whinging fuckers happened on the same night. He didn't see the response and then get worse. He was just terrible to begin with. You know, we were talking about the kind of people who support this movement, and he's a great example of the type and what they are. And I always want to call them this, but it's one of those things. Let me just ask Perplexity. The people in the city. Sorry. They are the people who lived in the capital in the Hunger Games. Do you ever see the Hunger Games?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, well, remember all the people, the people who live in the city in the Hunger Games, they look like it's Pride all the time.
Yeah.
It's like the month of Pride extended into the year of Pride, and then everything else.
So Canada, yeah.
So what they are is they are a kind of elite, and when people say, oh, lots of women agree with this, they mean those kinds of people, the elite, the middle class people living in comfort who have non-binary kids and don't mind other people's kids being sterilized for life. Such a great point, Helen. Anyway, I just wanted to make that connection with the capital citizens.
That's such a good point. I think Lisa Sellen Davis wrote a piece along those lines. Something about how like trans is the new smartphones, where it's like 20 years ago, everybody was like, we got to give smartphones to our kids because smartphones are the best thing ever and they're just going to be the best thing. And now suddenly,
know where they are.
All the coastal elites are like, oh God, smartphones are ruining our children. We got to take them the hell away from our children. But they're still peddling them on everyone else. All those executives at Apple and Google and Facebook, they won't let their kids go near Facebook, but they'll give them to everyone else. And it's kind of like trans is that, they're the very elites are who are pushing all this trans horse shit on everyone. They're the very first people who are going to suddenly, whose kids they're not going to let their kids transition, like you said, Helen. Their kids will dabble in non-binariness, but they're not a chance in hell are they going to get puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones and, God forbid, surgeries. It's very much the elites are the first people who are going to start pulling their kids away from all that toxicity, but they're not going to stop pushing it on everyone else. It really is. What is the name of that damn capital from Hunger Games? It really is like that.
It's capital. It's the capital.
It's just capital, isn't it? The capital.
The capital.
Oh, is it just called the capital? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Panem is the place, but the capital city is the capital, right? Okay.
Oh God, yeah. Again, I've lost my thread. Something like panic sets in, and I kind of
nothing like Biden. Jesus Christ.
Oh no, I know what it wants to move it on to. The asexual who led Pride. That's really
the sexy asexual. The asexual is like
yes. I'm asexual. Look at my boobs, everyone.
I mean, look but don't touch, But that's what I say to people. But like, someone pointed out, and at first you just think this sounds like a crazy idea, and of course they're not doing that, but it just makes so much sense that because Stonewall has sterilized, with their advice, a few generations of children, it is in their interests to promote asexuality, not as a thing that Stonewall did to these kids, but a thing that should be celebrated.
Yep.
And that keeps them in the Pride family, keeps them at the end of LGBT.
And makes them feel that, and maybe it's not a terrible thing to make them feel that the destruction of their future sexuality, they're basically the complete change of their life path. It's okay because, it's a thing. Everyone, loads of people are asexual. But
they're keeping them in the tribe, even though it started with all these kids who are realizing they're gay, who don't want to be gay. They can still stay in the rainbow family and they can just call themselves trans. And then they lose all their sexual function. Don't worry, we've normalized lack of sexual function. Now you're an asexual, but you're still in the rainbow. And it's like, they're just harming these kids more and more and more and more while trying to keep them in the rainbow. All these kids needed was some therapy, give me a break.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. The WPath file. Another thing we should quickly mention is the WPath files have just kind of gained a second life. They came out on 4th of March, and everyone ignored them, even though it's evidence of a massive scandal, including the BBC. And Rachel Levine now has been. It's been found that he's the cross-dressing assistant secretary for health for Biden, and he was arguing. This has come out in court documents. He was arguing for no lower age limit for trans surgeries. not just hormones, trans surgeries. You know.
Yeah, he wasn't just arguing for it. He went to the W path, which is the sort of the pretend medical body over trans, but they're complete pretend. And he told them to change their guidelines. You know, the big pretense of being medical authorities is that they update these guidelines of care, medical care for trans people. And the latest standards of care that they updated, they bowed to pressure from the White House, from the Assistant Secretary of Health, to get rid of all age limits restrictions for any surgeries whatsoever. And that's shocking and scandalous. And then the White House had to come out and distance themselves from the whole thing. So the White House put out a really strong statement saying they don't approve of surgeries for minors, trans surgeries for minors at all. And that's gotten no press, or not nearly as much press as it should have, because of the whole Biden situation going on in the United States right now.
Well, yes,
his whole sundowning thing. But like, that's a huge deal. The White House just said they don't approve of surgeries for minors. And they also had to acknowledge that someone within the White House has been all off on his own, wearing his little fancy panties, trying to get this changed, you know?
I mean, the guy should have to resign for that. He's the he's the Assistant Secretary for Health, isn't he? And he's basically he removed the lower boundary.
Can I ask you a question? Did he succeed in lowering it?
He succeeded. Yes. The World Professional Association. It's worse though, because at the same time, WPATH had commissioned a systematic review. Now, in the hierarchy of scientific reports and scientific studies, anyone can issue a junk scientific study, especially if you're trans. But there's the highest, most authoritative piece of scientific literature is a systematic review, and they take a long time and they're very methodical and procedural. So the World Professional Association for WPATH enlisted Johns Hopkins University to conduct a systematic review so that they could finally have that authoritative piece of scientific data that they could never get. The problem is Johns Hopkins did the systematic review and we're like, nope, totally, we find it against you. It's completely, there's no evidence for your argument. So then they started legally pushing Johns Hopkins, because they paid for the systematic review, to get it changed, to get it suppressed, to get them to change the data. They thought they could just order one up, you know, like ordering a pizza. We'll just order up a scientific systematic review and get all the toppings we want on it. Wow. And the scientists were like, no, the findings are not in your favor. And they're like, but we paid for it. We want them in our favor. And they couldn't figure it out. So then they suppressed the whole thing. So it was in this context where WPATH just found out that even their own scientists they ordered to do scientific work were telling them, no, sorry, you don't have the evidence behind your back at all whatsoever. It's completely against you. It is in that very context, when they should have been slowing down and putting the brakes on things, that they were bowing to pressure from the White House to completely take away all age restrictions for all surgeries. And that was a huge scandal for WPATH. That happened, the last standards of care, when they announced that there should be no age restrictions for any surgeries at all whatsoever. That was a huge scandal for WPATH. That's
they took it offline.
WPATH completely discreditable and basically abolished them from their country. And, you know, that was really the beginning of the end of WPATH. And it turns out it was the stupid old cross-dresser at the Assistant Secretary of Health of the White House who was doing it all. Yeah.
Well, but these guys don't have to be persuaded. You know what I mean? This is what they're already doing anyway. Helen, you were just about to say something.
I was about to say that, you know, this is quite a big deal, and he should be asked to resign, like the bloke who stole the women's clothes was asked to resign. I mean, you know, two of them creating a bit of a scandal. You know, there's a pattern. There's, you know, these are...
There's only two high-level trans people, and both of them, one of them's a convicted felon now, and the other one has been found to be engaging in a horrible scandal. Sorry,
It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence.
So I'm so sorry. I'm so distracted. I've been sitting here wondering where MaryKate was, and realized I didn't send her the link. So luckily, it's only 5 minutes past the half hour. And she won't be too angry with me. Okay.
Oh yeah, we have a special guest for you all today. We didn't even mention that, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the heading of the episode.
Yeah, I'm quite excited. I'm actually very excited about this.
I know.
she is someone who just arrived on the scene and just doesn't give a fuck.
Like burst.
Doesn't give a fuck. I've never seen anyone less afraid of these TRA scumbags. You know, it's a lovely thing to see. Let me tell her that, let me apologize for being late. In case she's not actually watching, I hope she is. So sorry I was late with this.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. So is there?
I was too excited. I was too excited, MaryKate.
We forgot to tell you where we were meeting.
Stop it. Yeah. So she's doing great, and they really hate her because the thing that trans rights activists hate more than anything else is people showing what they're doing, you know, and all she does is she reads out forum messages, tweets, whatever it happens to be, that are just the most disgusting, misogynistic, pornographic, and vile things that they say about being a woman, that they say about actual women. It's horrific.
And it is very, very clever. It's very clever, isn't it? Because it is your words. You know, people all the time will be like, "Oh, but you said this. You said this." But for MaryKate, it's I can't say you said this because you were just repeating it. It's a very clever expose, I think.
Yeah, hopefully she's still at her computer and didn't just get frustrated and go away. But we'll see in a sec. Another thing, I just wanted to say this. I don't know how many times I'll have to say this or do something about it, but there's a piece today in The Independent that was very flattering towards Rosie Duffield. Flattering and appreciative of what she's done. But in the piece, they claimed that I doxed lesbians who I believe to be, this is the exact quote, who I believe to be transgender. That's not true. I didn't dox anyone, first of all. And I was doxing men. I didn't dox anyone, first of all. And I was not doxing men when I went onto that site. You know,
you think a journalist would know what the word dox means? Sorry, go on. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. But like, all I did was I posted photographs of men on the lesbian dating app Her to show that this was happening to lesbians on their own dating apps. You know, and for that to continue to be misrepresented is so annoying. So I'm going to be looking for an apology and a correction.
And that's the madness, is like obvious men in wigs. And it's like, how dare you even suggest that that's a man? You're not supposed to be able to tell. And it's like, yes, you fucking are. This idea that it's against the rules to look at a patently obvious man and say that that's a man. That's just insane. And to call that doxing now, that's just like exaggerating on both sides. Like, just give me a fucking break. But that's The Independent for you. You know,
I mean, to be fair, you know, they're calling men women, so which have kind of lost their.
You haven't seen their genitals. Give me a break.
So true. Oh, that's another thing we can talk about while we're waiting for MaryKate. That fantastic Australian ad. Do you remember that? Woman waiting in a lift. The lift and a trans woman comes in. I put a trans woman, I'll put that in quotes because I don't think such a thing exists. A trans woman comes in, basically a man wearing some makeup with a dress on, and she becomes nervous and she leaves the lift. So the Australian media, Victoria's media, I think it is, or Victoria's government is telling women to ignore their instincts when they are frightened or unsure and continue to place themselves in positions that make them uncomfortable. That is against the whole of human evolution, which has trained us to see dangers and to recognize when things aren't right. It's a disgusting thing for
it is. I'll tell you what happened to me. It was only last summer. And I was quite shocked about it. I was in a pub and the toilet, it was like a Sunday lunch, and the toilets were right on the top floor. And I went in and they were completely empty. So I went into one of the stalls, and when I was in there, I heard a man's voice with a baby. He was talking to his baby, and he came into the women's toilets to change the baby because that's where the baby changing was.
Yes.
Now, there is, you might think, okay, well, actually, that's kind of reasonable because there's no baby changing in the men's. But honestly, as soon as I heard his voice talking, I froze. I thought, I'm in a room all by myself, completely on the top floor. There is no one around me. There is one way out.
Yeah.
He could have a baby with him. He could not. All I heard was a man's voice talking, and I was.
Oh, you didn't hear the baby?
No. I mean, I'm sure that he did have a baby.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the end, I did exit the stall, and he was there with his baby. But I was very, suddenly I was completely tensed. I completely tensed up because I thought I'm in a situation where I feel very vulnerable now. I've got to go out that door. There's one door, and there's a bloke in here, and it's just me and him. And so this is the same idea. This is the lift thing. You're standing in a lift, and a bloke walks in, and the door is going to shut, and you've got maybe 7 floors of you and some strange bloke that you don't know, and there is no way out. It's completely reasonable to get out of the lift at that point, and the advert didn't choose a small bloke either. The trans woman is massive. Like, he's an obvious bloke, and he looks quite stern when she gets out. I probably got out of that lift too.
Yeah, well, that's the idea that I was trying to get at too. Is like when you cast a trans woman in a part like that, you're trying to deliberately cast someone who is an obvious man, which puts the lie to the whole thing that you can't tell who's a man and who's a woman. Because every time you want to cast a trans woman, you have to make sure that you can tell it's really a guy. And then everybody has to collude in pretending they can't. That's the sort of tension with trans, is that they have to there's an aesthetic to trans, which means you can visually tell that someone's male dressed in women's clothing. And that's what makes them so celebratable and so magic and so special. And then you're supposed to pretend you can't see it. It doesn't make any sense. So when the whole point of that commercial, it wouldn't have made sense unless you could obviously tell that's a hulking man. But once you can obviously tell that that's a hulking man, that's not a trans woman anymore. It's not a woman like every other woman. It's just like it completely is utterly self-contradictory right at the heart of it.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue. That's a good point you made about Helen about the bathroom. I think there's an element of men sometimes, if they're doing something that's a bit atypical, like a man having a baby, that might give him a sense of like, I can break boundaries more because I'm a progressive father with a baby in public or something,
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
No, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but MaryKate is here, and I've already.
Oh, good. Excellent. Bring it in.
Hey, MaryKate.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Lovely to see you. We've been gabbing about you.
Oh no.
How good you saw that.
Oh no.
It's just so good, and it's great to see. And first of all, could I just ask, when did you first notice that something strange was happening? And then when did you decide you didn't give a fuck about how you were going to present the Twitter account that you do?
Oh my goodness. It was many different things over a period of time. It was people that I met personally, in my friend groups that, it was a whole guy in a bikini, and, everyone's pretending he isn't a 36-year-old guy named Nick, now he's a lady. And I got us kicked out of a vacation group. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As far as not giving a fuck, I feel like it. Can I say bad words? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. It really started kind of. I was trying to circumvent all of the restrictions. TikTok was taking everything down. I got banned on Reddit. My personal account got banned on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, how do I get around this? So I decided I will just read what they write, and let that, and it worked for a while. They caught on eventually. I think after about the 50th death threat, I stopped caring and decided, all right, I'm not going to be nice anymore. And I don't think that we need to be kind to men that are mocking us. And I'm just out of fucks to give.
Where are you, MaryKate? You're in the U.S., it sounds like.
I am. Yeah, I'm in the American South.
Nice.
All right. Okay. And how has that been, the threat? Has it ever gone, has it ever escalated into anything, or is it all just Twitter DMs and stuff?
It's just been Twitter stuff so far. I know I do think there will come a day where, somebody figures something out and I'll have to worry about that. But I do have security cameras at home, and I'm not super worried because I don't think they leave their homes all that often.
Yeah. It's funny. One of my favorite things is when you see a avatar that's like a little fairy going like this.
Every time, yeah.
And then you see the person in the picture, and they're taking a photograph in a mirror that is filthy.
Yes.
Filthy.
And all the time.
Yeah. And you can see the room behind them is just a mess. Yeah. And he's presenting himself as Trixie Philly Bottles. Yeah. It's hilarious.
I just saw one of those this morning. It's so funny because they want to identify as women, but they don't want to do the dishes, or they want to identify with the good, the stereotypes that are porn saturated, but not the daily things that are associated with women.
Yeah, they're always talking about pillow fights.
Yeah. We love pillow fights. Oh,
they're the best.
How has it been personally? Have you, friends wise, etc., have people distanced themselves from you, or have people sort of said, no, we agree?
A little bit of both. I really backed away from my personal social media accounts before I started doing the videos. Because of those interpersonal frictions with, people in groups that I was friends with who, they were hardcore trans activists, J.K. Rowling is a bigot, blah, 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 blah. But some of my friends have really, they chuckle. They don't think I'm as funny as I think I am. But and some of them, I think, so I feel like I started this journey on the left, and I don't feel like I've moved, and I know everyone says this, but I feel like the posts have moved so much that, now I am considered pretty right. And so I do have friends that it's not necessarily that they disagree with what I'm saying. It's that, you got retweeted by Jordan Peterson, do you know what he's about, blah, blah, blah. And I, got a couple of those this morning. And, I think.
I love Peterson.
Yeah.
His book 12 Rules is an absolutely beautiful book about taking personal responsibility. And the way it's been characterized has been, the usual bullshit. And I genuinely think the reason why he is considered right-wing and is considered, in the way that he is because his original sin was that video where he was saying, "I'm not going to observe pronouns," So anyway, but
that was his original sin. Yeah, absolutely. He a long time ago, I think, said he wasn't going to observe pronouns. Right. And I think you're right. I mean, I think that he's got a lot of very interesting things to say. I mean, some things I really disagree with him on. But I find him, he's a very interesting bloke. He's obviously very smart. And
he's coming at it from a theoretical and analytical and mythical point of view. He's one of these people. He knows so many stories and fables and analytic things. He's probably a young fan, I'd say.
But I'm assuming, but what's interesting here is that, you know, your friends aren't all like, well, you know, there's this and this. They're like, he's retweeted with you, he's retweeted you, and he's right and right wing. I'm assuming that they're saying this is a bad thing, right?
Yeah, the guilt by association thing, right? Like, even if somebody likes something that you said and they're bad, even if you had no control over it and you didn't seek out their endorsement, you're now glued to that person's politics, and you're marked as an outsider kind of thing. Sorry, yeah.
No, I mean, he's one of those individuals, kind of like J.K. Rowling, where I was obviously a big fan already and much more familiar with her. But, you know, when I started hearing all the, you know, Jordan B. Peterson, this and that, I kind of was like, what is everyone so mad about? So I went looking, and, you know, as far as I could tell, he was trying to help young men be better young men. And, you know, I came away with it being like, I don't see anything wrong with that, you know, but I do think we're at a point where, you know, everything is so, you know, if you believe this, you're a Nazi. And, you know, I got called a Nazi and Hitler so many times that I put it in my bio. You know, I'm vegetarian just like Hitler, and they love me. Like,
I only have one ball, so I'm. So when someone called me Hitler for trans people, I thought, well, you know.
You might as well lean in at this point, you know.
Well, I listen to Wagner, so I'm a Nazi too. We're all Hitler, basically. What have you got in common with Hitler so we can all be Hitler? We got a vegetarian, a monoball, and a Wagnerian.
Guys, I'm distancing myself from you all.
What would you say is the what is? I presume that the friends you're talking about are all terrified of a Trump win.
Yeah, I think they would be.
Yes. But like, has there been much of a response to Biden not really knowing what's going on over there? I mean,
I have had a big response to that. You know, and I guess, you know, you can't say A is bad without people saying you love B, you know. Like you know, when Trump was in power, I had a lot of criticisms about him too, you know, and I'm choosing to criticize the person who's in the chair at the moment, you know, because I don't think that's safe. I think that, you know, what they're doing with him, I mean, he is clearly not fit.
They've left the door wide open for Trump.
They absolutely did. They did it to themselves at this point.
You know, what were the Democrats thinking?
Right.
I mean, I was absolutely horrified because, like,
I
after
think
that,
debate.
How could you vote for him?
Right.
There's no confidence, none at all.
And who's running it? You know, because it's not him. And you know who is behind? You know, the taking down Title IX, and you know all the trannies he's hired in the office and invited in there. And you know, I'm not saying I love Trump. I'm saying this is a problem. You know, we can look at this as a problem, and you know the answer doesn't. I don't like our choices. You know, I think we have geriatric pervert A and geriatric pervert B, and I don't like it. You know.
I think that hair sniffing is innocent. I genuinely do. I just don't. I think he doesn't have he doesn't know how it looks. He's never had it. He just thinks, oh, what a lovely little girl. You know.
I didn't vote for him, so I didn't look that closely. You know, I've very much always been, you know, registered independent. I registered Democrat to try and vote a different candidate, because in my state you have to be registered with the party to vote in the primaries. But you know, I'm just very disappointed in all of American politics at the moment, and I don't think there's a right answer. You know, there's a lesser of two evils somewhere, but I guess my fight right now is you can't protect women if you can't define them. So
same with us.
I'm gonna go. You know, we have to start somewhere, and I'm gonna go with that starting point, and you know, edit from there.
Yeah, us too. I think we all would describe ourselves as single issue voters.
Yeah.
I will not vote for anyone who cannot tell you what a woman is
Right.
or explain the difference between men and women. How could you do that?
Yeah.
As someone else said, if he's prepared to lie about that, he's prepared to lie about anything.
Anything. Yeah.
So, but with Biden, I heard an interesting thing. What's that guy's name? The Indian guy, Vash something.
Oh.
You know the guy. He was running for a while. Let me see. Are we both searching it up?
No, you're good. You got it.
Vash. Guy in politics. I've literally just said Vash guy in politics.
That'll get you there.
Yeah, it'll get me there. Oh no. Okay, forget it. It didn't work. Anyway,
I know who you're talking about, though.
someone will write it. But he pointed out a very interesting thing. He said that it was the earliest presidential debate in history.
The earliest?
Yes.
Oh, starting it back in June?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently so. And he thinks they did it deliberately to show the public why they're going to change. You know, so I don't know. Maybe
That is interesting. I just assumed it was because, this is a circus and they're giving us the entertainment to get us upset, and of course it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of these debates is so silly when, I don't know, like.
But neither of them.
I think Trump is a genuine danger to all of democracy, in my opinion. And I think Biden's a horrible alternative, but.
Yeah.
You need democracy at least in order to fight an issue. If democracy itself is gone, then you can't even fight anymore. Is the way I see it.
Which is why I think the Dems have done such a terrible thing by getting Biden to run again. I mean, it's really dangerous now. They are really, leaving the door open for Trump because he has just come across as completely unable to govern.
I agree with that. Like I said, I think they did it to themselves. They decided to shoot themselves in the foot. They've alienated women. They've decided, they're gonna keep dragging this guy out, and going,
I feel like the same
fine,
problem that led the Democrats to stick with Biden is the same problem that's leading people to stubbornly stick with trans ideology. A kind of refusal to see their own problem. Everybody's keeping their heads down. Like there was all the Democrats who knew that Biden was getting too old, who knew that Biden wasn't going to do well in the race. There was too much social cost to them personally to speak up and say anything. So they all kept their heads down and their mouths shut. And boy, does that sound like the way the Democrats are acting on the trans issue overall as well. It's reflective of the same issue of this sort of systemic problem. The left gets so scared, not even the Democrats. The Democrats aren't the left. The Democrats are the center. But the people who aren't far right get so scared of Trump and stuff that instead of speaking up to fix their party, they're keeping their heads down and they're piping down while their party gets in further and further trouble.
Yeah.
So there's an instinct to go quiet when they feel like the party's in trouble. When what they need to do is exactly the opposite, is to speak up and steer the party away from danger. And they didn't steer the party away from the Biden problem, and they didn't steer the party away from the trans problem. And now we're just getting sucked into further danger. That's the way I see it,
Yeah, and I know you guys are having similar problems in your election, and candidates. Just kind of backtracking, but they're not really going to, and I see the frustration every day.
Yeah, and can I say, when you say about voting for democracy, Artie, let me put it this way: when Trump came into power, I was absolutely terrified. I thought they might not make it through the year. I thought there'd be a nuclear war or something. But it turned out that they were, for me anyway, and for people around the world, somewhat uneventful. It wasn't a complete disaster. Let's put it that way. But Biden comes into power, who's supposed to be more my kind of guy, liberal, progressive, and he does all the things I was scared Trump would do in his time. You know what I mean? Destroys women's rights. Continues the operations on children, I mean, if Trump had done all that, I would have gone, oh, that makes sense, because he's evil. But whoever is running Biden is evil, I think. I think or else they're like Keir and they just don't understand the subject, Can I ask, there's an interesting thing, isn't there, MaryKate, that you and libs of TikTok are completely hated by trans activists. And you have in common the fact that you really just show people what they themselves are saying, What's the kind of thing that has shocked you most in digging through it?
Oh God, I don't know what shocks me anymore. I have trawled through so much sewage in the last few months. I guess the thing that shocks me is the people who can hear the things that they themselves say and they still defend it, and they'll say, well, oh, those aren't real trans people, or you can't take the words of a few and apply it to the whole group, and just the vitriol that I get. You're a I hope you get shot, you're a cunt, da, 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 da. And it's like, they want visibility, but they don't want you to look too closely, because if you look too closely, you see what they are, and they're fucking men, and they're gross men. And I just am like, I keep thinking, I'm like, if enough people hear what they're saying, they can't support it anymore, right? Right. Yeah. And that's not necessarily the reaction that I'm seeing. I'm just, you get a lot of pushback for, speaking up against the new priest class. And it's, they're not all bad, and they don't understand safeguarding. Or really, I think they just don't care, I think it's.
No, of course they don't care.
They don't care. Yeah.
Well, the craziest thing is when you show Scientologists how crazy Scientology is, it doesn't snap them out of it. No. And when you show trans activist supporters how crazy trans ideology is, it doesn't snap them out of it. That's the scariest thing, right? It's like, how does this not snap you out of it? No,
that's true. That's true. This is the point where you have friends or people who say, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you because you're just because they can't handle what you're telling them. Right. And they see the problem is that you're telling them, and if they cut you off, then you can't tell them anymore, and then it's all good.
Right. Yeah. They're ostriching, it's la 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 la, and but I think the idea that I know trans women that they don't think like that. Yeah, they do, and I think they're being snowballed. And, I think that while they wear a certain part of their fetish in public, they're not going to be telling, their friend, I don't believe them when they say, oh, I'm not like that. I can't believe that, some of them act like that. I just don't believe them anymore because, you read so many posts where it's like, hey, this is an embarrassing question, but, whenever I wear a dress, I get a raging boner. And it's like, they're asking each other these things because they all understand that that's part of it, and they say, is this just a fetish? And it's like, fucking yes, Yes. And I don't think they really believe that it's not, I think they're in these chambers where they can tell each other, no, it's normal. You're normal, girl.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people now start to show pictures of what's the name? Kardashians, the Kardashians saying, with pictures of them just doing selfies with the big lips and things. Yeah. People are saying, look, these are autogynephiles, and you're like, you really have zero idea, do you?
Right.
These women are doing these pictures because it's getting them money. This getting them money and attention. Right. It's not. This isn't autogynephilia. This is not putting a dress on and getting a boner. No. It's completely different.
No, it is, and they like to say, well, women get breast implants and plastic surgery, and women aren't pretending to be women, and I don't necessarily agree with the plastic surgery industry either. I think that is yet another way they prey on women, and I'm not.
They're doing that for men to give men boners at the
end
of the day.
It still comes
men
back.
Get boobs. to give
Good.
themselves
Yeah,
boners, and women get boobs
absolutely.
to give men boners. It's all
Right.
about men's boners. But yes, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I just cannot believe it. It's like watching. It has been like watching South Park play out in real life. You know,
Yeah.
where I'm like, are we all just gonna keep pretending this is normal? You know, are we really doing this? And they've decided, you know, and the Democrats are guilty. They have decided, yeah, we're doing that. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got into this six years ago,
Right.
around 6 years ago, and I genuinely thought every story I was sharing was going to end it. I was
Right.
like, oh, this one will do it, you know, and no one cares. No
Right.
one cares, you know.
Well, they do. A lot of people do care, but the prevailing wind is against us.
Doesn't
Was,
care.
was
The media-
against us.
the class for whom this is, you know, settled in, they don't care, you know.
Right.
Yeah, like the David Tennant's, that class, the
Right.
sort of media, academia, and political elite.
Yeah.
That's, you know, for them, like, I think about David Tennant and it's a joy at having a trans kid and his ability to say, we have skin in the game, like, oh, you know, I feel you guys. And as kids just, you know, wearing purple and going to Pride and there's a bloke, you know, and he's championing it all. He's one of these people who is, you know, he should be blamed. He should be really, really blamed for perpetuating this for other people's children. It makes me very angry.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like, so when I was growing up, I was such a tomboy. You know, I remember saying to my mother after I found out what periods were, I don't want to be a girl, you know, and I was, you know, we had a creek in the backyard. I was always in with the bugs. And, you know, I very much like I had you know, my friends were mostly boys. I wasn't feminine, you know, I kind of really rejected dresses and femininity until almost adulthood. But luckily I had my mom's an athlete and, you know, she was just like, okay, you know, that's fine. And, you know, I was so grateful for that. Say it again.
And luckily your mother wasn't mad.
Right. And it is crazy. And talking to my parents, they have friends who have daughters who I knew them as just lesbians, you know, and they've been told, oh, you're actually a boy. And they've had, you know, their breast removed and, you know, their voice box is constricted now. And it is just wild that they're doing this. But, you know, they get told, oh, you know, they'll kill themselves if you don't. And it is mad, as you all say.
It's heartbreaking. Did you hear the story about how the ground is changing in Grindr? Do you know this, MaryKate?
How what?
How things are changing at Grindr.
No.
Okay, so Grindr is, for people who don't know, the gay hookup app, and lots of trans-identified women who have been told they will turn into, who are actually just straight women, who now think they're gay men, are going onto the website, making the gay men very awkward. You know, feel very awkward. But the terrible thing about it is, straight men are pretending to be gay to predate on those women.
Right. Okay. Yep. I mean, I definitely have seen that concept of, you know, men being like, oh yeah, you're definitely a guy, you know, yeah, for sure, you know.
Yeah. And then when they talk about it on forums and stuff, they talk about them as if they're just nothing. These people,
yeah.
You know, it's just really, really horrible. But listen, I guess we better wrap up because I think the England game is on, and we're going to get lots of people in trouble with their other half.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But
who are you all rooting for?
Well, I guess everyone, apart from me, is rooting for England. I don't even know who they're playing, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if this was an inter-city game or
it might be England versus Ireland. I don't know.
My rules are if Wales aren't playing, then I'll go for England.
Okay.
MaryKate, will you please do keep it up, first of all, and if you ever need anything amplified or you want to come on again, we'd love to have you. Yeah, that's it. I
And
guess
it was lovely to meet you.
It was
Lovely
so
to meet
great
you.
to meet all three of you. Thank you so much. This is
Well,
fun.
thank you for coming on.
All right. Have a good day, y'all.
Bye.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Well, she's exactly what I thought. She's a delight.
Yeah. A delight. A beautiful delight.
Absolutely.
I feel like I still would like to talk to her more about it. It was a very chatty one, and I just want to hear. I'm just fascinated by her because she came in so late. It seemed to me, and she was just all guns blazing immediately. It was like in a film, someone coming to the rescue with a machine.
But I think what she was saying, lots of other things were banned. I suspect she was talking about it on her personal account, particular account. So the way in order not to get banned was to repeat their words. I mean that was it. It's a clever solution. Oh, Cara Dansky is like, I'm so bummed I missed her. Cara, we'll just get it on again for you. Yeah, that's what we will do.
We will. Anyway. Better go, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, enjoy the England game. Guys, lovely to talk to you. I'm so glad we're doing this again. And I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Wednesday. If not Wednesday, Sunday. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Like and subscribe.